Welcome to the Ben-Gurion Heritage Institute, where the legacy of David Ben-Gurion, the founding father of modern Israel, comes to life. The institute was established in 1976 following the passing of David Ben-Gurion law in order to memorialize and spread the heritage of David Ben-Gurion to the future generations. We focus on 5 central fields of interest: the centrality of the Negev, Ben-Gurion's unique style of leadership, pioneering, and aspiration for an exemplary society, and 5, mamlachtiyut or republicanism with a small r. Our aim is to engage in a dialogue on the relevance of Ben-Gurion's heritage today, both within Israel and overseas. Over 160,000 people participate in the Institute's activities annually. A central message in our activities is based on Ben-Gurion's quotes: "Words which are not connected to deeds are absolutely nothing." Ben-Gurion's legacy is to encourage active citizenship. The Ben-Gurion Visitor Center in the Archives building is an example of a fruitful cooperation with Ben-Gurion universities. Groups from Israel and abroad encounter dramatic historical documents which change the path of Jewish history. I will end with Ben-Gurion's famous quote when visiting the new kibbutz members of the Arava in 1957. Dare, persevere, succeed. We look forward to seeing you in the person. Come to the Negev.
David Ben-Gurion's home and the museum stand as witnesses to his remarkable journey and commitment to the dream of a Jewish homeland. Each photograph, each document, and each piece of history on display serves as a window into the monumental chapters of David Ben-Gurion's legacy. A visionary and a unifier, Ben-Gurion's interactions transcended borders and backgrounds, embodying the spirit of a nascent nation striving for unity.
We are sitting in Ben-Gurion's living room 50 years after he died. Why is his legacy relevant today?
I'm going to give you 2 answers, and they will seem contradictory. So the first answer is that it's only 75 years later. And basically, when you look at it from the perspective of countries, nations, I don't know, what is 75 years? It's not so many years after the establishment of the state, definitely not so many years after Ben-Gurion was relevant. And I can tell you one thing, the problems and the challenges that Ben-Gurion dealt with throughout his political career are not so different from the problems that we're facing today. The major disputes that Israeli society is dealing with today, whether it's geopolitics, whether it's social aspects, whether it's issues of secularity and religion, all of these topics were on Ben-Gurion's agenda, and he had to deal with them on a daily basis. So it is helpful to listen to his insights and to try and understand how he saw these complexities and ask ourselves to what extent those answers could serve us today.
So if I'm going to ask you to pick one insight and to talk about it, what will it be?
I'm going to pick 2. So one insight that I feel is very helpful for my understanding of Israel today is that Ben-Gurion did not see any contradiction whatsoever in what we call in Hebrew Yehudit v'Demokratit. For Ben-Gurion, Yehudit and Democratic were one. In other words, because Judaism has the Jewish belonging, the Jewish identity, or the Jewish philosophy, if you wish, we might consider it a particular, right? It's a symbol of particularity, meaning there are certain people who define themselves as Jewish. But at the same time, Ben-Gurion believed and he claimed that Judaism is the philosophy and the faith that brought to the world universalism, universal values, ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, as one of the main ideas that Ben-Gurion. In other words, Ben-Gurion did not see. How could there be any contradiction between Yehudit v'Demokratit? I embraced it years ago. For me, it's out there, and he makes it seem so simple. So that's one thing I'm definitely taking from him. And the other one is personal. בנגב ייבחן העם בישראל. What can I do? I mean, in the Negev, the people of Israel will be tested. What can I say? I mean, the Negev, well, in the Negev, all of us are tested. His understanding that the Negev is a must.
Do you think we passed the test?
Okay, so now you're asking me the same question that an interviewer asked Ben-Gurion, right, years ago. He asked him, so did we fulfill, or, right, are we there? And he said, not yet, right? That was his answer.
He said not yet regarding the state of Israel and the Negev.
Both. I think he's right, not yet. Now, you have to ask me.
Why?
No, you have to ask me another question. You have to ask me, is it good or bad that we did not pass the test as yet?
And the answer is?
It's good.
Why?
There's more positivity to it than negativity to it. The fact
that we still did not pass the test.
Exactly.
But why? Why is it more positive?
Because according to Ben-Gurion's way of thinking, the fact that we are under test, the fact that we are challenged on a daily basis, the fact that we have to deal with the challenges, the difficulties, that we cannot lean back. It's a constant reminder that we should not lean back and say, we've done it, we're there, let's go, let's go chill, as the kids say, okay?
So what you're basically saying is that the constant challenge in the Negev is a positive thing that needs to carry on.
It's an engine, yes. I see that we have not reached our destination. That fact serves as an ongoing engine to reinvent ourselves, to imagine possibilities, to look beyond the present, to look beyond the surface. It's like an engine. Not reaching your goal could serve as an engine. Now I'm echoing Ben-Gurion, okay? I'm talking Ben-Gurionic now. This is a Ben-Gurionic statement. I think since we know that Ben-Gurion considered pioneering chalutziyut, okay? Pioneering as a cornerstone in the building that is called Jewish National Revival, okay? Since he considered pioneering to be a cornerstone in that construction, and since we both know that he considered pioneering as, I'm going to say it in Hebrew because it sounds so good, Iyashlama im hametziut, not coming to terms with reality, because we know that he never thought that pioneering should not be part of that cornerstone, then according to his perspective, we should be able to talk about pioneering when Israel will be 200 years old. When we will celebrate, not we, someone else will be sitting here and will be celebrating 275 years old, they will still, I hope, be speaking about pioneering. And they will still be looking at B'Negev Yibachen Am B'Yisrael as one of those sayings that we are still to fulfill.
We are in Ben-Gurion's living room, and once we entered the house, we saw many Jewish artifacts, like Moses, like the burning bush, like many holy books. And my question to you is, he was a secular Jew, and in one of his interviews, I recall him saying that he does not believe in God. How come there are so many Jewish artifacts in this house?
So first, let me disagree.
Come on.
Everybody says he was a secular Jew. What defines a secular Jew?
He said he does not believe in God.
Well, I'm sorry, I have a different saying of his, where he says he does believe in God. Do you want me to quote it for you?
Let me read from one of the letters. There are lots of evidences, there's lots of documentation of this sort. I'll read you one because it's quite clear cut, okay?
Okay.
I believe in God, which means in the Almighty, in the one Almighty. I think that's probably a reasonable translation to what he says here. Without this faith, he uses the word faith, very secular of him. He uses the word faith. He says, without this faith, I am not able to understand and to know the existence of the world and mankind and humankind.
There wasn't any mezuzah in Ben-Gurion's here, not in the entrance, not in the rooms. So once you say Ben-Gurion believed in God, and yet many little things that people that believe in God have in their home, Ben-Gurion did not.
So the part that Ben-Gurion did not feel attached to is the religiosity part. In other words, you are right. Did not have a mezuzah, then they put it on because he was a public figure, so they needed to have a mezuzah for our people. When we know he did not marry under a chuppah, we know that. We know he did not keep Shabbat, we know that, okay? He did not live a religious way of life. So the most common answer that he would give was, as a Jew living in the land of Israel, I am fulfilling many more mitzvot, many more deeds, biblical commands, than many other religious Jews who live outside of the land of Israel. That was the simple answer that he would answer on that. So in an interesting way, many times when he responded to this question, he chose the religious track to answer, meaning not saying, I don't care about mitzvot, but saying, I am keeping mitzvot. I am keeping the most important mitzvah. I am settling the land of Israel. I am living in Eretz Israel.
He wanted the young members of American Jewish communities, he wanted them to come for 1 year, not for 2 weeks, not for 1 month. He wanted them to come for 1 year, and he wanted them to study here because he wanted them to know Hebrew, because he was hoping that the Hebrew will strengthen those ties, that because he understood that language is also culture and language is also identity. Now, let me just say something about that artifact. If we want to illustrate this alternative that Ben-Gurion was quite happy with, we can take a look, we can take a glance at the little statue that we have here, at the artifact that is right here behind us of Supreme Court Judge Louis Brandeis. And the statue was given to Ben-Gurion as a present from the university called Brandeis University, okay? The university dedicating his name, honoring Brandeis' name. The interesting thing about this present is that the writing on the present says that in the honor of, I think it's Ben-Gurion's wedding anniversary, if I'm not mistaken, they have established a scholarship fund. Guess for what? For the exchange of American students to Israel. In other words, for sending American Jewish students to study in Israel, for a study abroad in Israel for 1 year.
So you are basically saying that Ben-Gurion's day is relevant today to the American Jews because Ben-Gurion pointed on the importance of a greater community and the ongoing relationship and exchange programs between Israeli students or adolescents to the youngsters and the students abroad.
First of all, I meant that the importance of American Jewry, the American Jewish communities, as the importance of Jewish communities around the world, is that they are we. We all belong to a greater community. Okay, that's one. But that's abstract, I agree. So when Ben-Gurion looked at that, what does it mean? When he asked himself, or when the Jewish communities of the United States ask themselves, because they're in a good position to ask themselves, so what does it mean? What does it mean to belong to a greater community? It means that we have a special commitment to something that is bigger than our own life. We all have commitments, right? We have commitments to our families, we have commitment to our works, we have commitments to our community where we live, to our neighborhood. We have all kinds of commitments. Ben-Gurion added another commitment, and that is the commitment to the greater community. And the American Jewish communities accepted it. It made sense for them. And that's why before the state was established, American Jewish leaders contributed to the establishment of the state. One cannot understand the establishment of the State of Israel if we do not take into consideration the mobilization of American Jewish individuals and communities to support the establishment of the State of Israel in establishing and founding the IDF, founding the force of Israel, in founding settlements, in founding welfare for the people of this country. One cannot understand this. And then later on in supporting education, and culture, and I mean, you name it. But it's not only the support by mobilizing to provide the means, it's also by integrating the values into it. Because when American Jewish individuals and communities get involved, they bring their values with them, the values of the importance of community, expressing your Jewishness. There's a whole set of values, the values of plurality, of pluralism, the values of accepting diversity. When different Jewish communities, and more so Jewish communities that are based in liberal countries around the world, but of course the United States, when they are still committed to Israel, they are still committed not only by providing means for Israelis to do for themselves. They are committed by investing themselves, their love, their care, their affinity, their identification, an identity, their sense of belonging.
So, Ben-Gurion's day in the US, how can you imagine it?
So it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to celebrate our belonging to the greater community. Ben-Gurion is still relevant, and he's still relevant because most of the topics that he dealt with are still very much relevant to our daily life. So for me, Ben-Gurion's day is that one day a year that we all gather around his burial site, and in a way we have to give him an account. What have we done with all those things that were on his table and are on our table? So this is kind of going back to Ben-Gurion and saying, yes, I know, Ben-Gurion, you talked about the gathering of exiles, we're taking care of that. Wait, it's taking time. I know you said we have to settle the Negev. Okay, we're working on that. It's taking time. And because Ben-Gurion claimed that we are all one, that all the Jewish people belong to the same greater community, so if it's relevant for me as a Jewish Israeli, it's definitely relevant for any person who defines himself or herself as Jewish on earth, in the world. Jewish American individuals and communities can gain a lot from mentioning this day, from celebrating this day, and reminding themselves those ideas that he had for them, the plans that he had for them, and the dialogue that he had with them, and reminding themselves that all those things that were then on their agenda are still relevant today, including the commitment.
So tell us more about the institute you work in.
So the Ben-Gurion Research Institute for the Study of Israel and Zionism is an interesting academic entity. So yes, we study Ben-Gurion, which is fascinating, and believe me, there's still more work for the generations to come. So the institute is committed to do research on the history, the philosophy, the politics, the culture, the society, you name it, of the State of Israel. We're a community of scholars, and we do ongoing research that is aimed at uncoding this riddle that is called the State of Israel. We do it also by teaching and raising the next generation of knowledgeable people who are interested, and to teach it academically in a way that will enable us to train the future experts of Israel, not only in Israel, but also around the world. And this is what brings me to the Woodman-Scheller Israel Studies International MA program, which is an MA program in Israel Studies, and we teach in English. So it enables anyone who is interested in Israel and how Israel came about can come and study for 2 years and even do a master thesis about Israel. So we have students from all over the world. Learning about Israel is relevant to human beings. Maybe because, as Ben-Gurion said, there is no contradiction between particularity and universality. There's no contradiction between Jewish and democratic. There's no contradiction that Israel is very Jewish, but is also very universal and democratic. And that's why the Woodman-Scheller Israel Studies International program is so much relevant. We're producing the ongoing knowledge that is so much needed for us to be able to understand ourselves. And when I say ourselves, it's not only our Israeli and Jewish ourselves, it's our humankind ourselves. So this is what we do at the Institute.
Thank you, Paula.
Here, among the Zin Valley of the Negev, lies the resting place of a visionary who transformed the arid desert into a land of opportunity. As we celebrate the second annual Ben-Gurion Day in the United States, we honor a man whose legacy bridges continents, reminding us of the power of determination and the spirit of a nation.